In this video, I'll be explaining how to create a network in Image 3.0. We'll start out by doing the network planning, and I'll show you an example of a node map. And then we'll use NMUtils to create a network. And once the network is created, we'll have to go into our netmail config and edit our connections for the network connections. We'll continue by explaining how to edit the light bar defaults, set the calling times, create an update UD, which will allow the new links that you've just created to call in and download the files to set up their nodes, and then we'll test the connections to make sure everything works. For this demonstration, I'm planning to make a network with 3 nodes. I started out by making a network map using the image editor, and you can see that in the picture. For simplicity, I just called my boards Image 3.0 Test 1, Test 2, and Test 3. Notice that each node has a node identifier, IM1, IM2, and IM3. Each board has a phone number, and each board has a telnet address. I'm using VSPE and BBS Server simply because it's much easier to create phone book entries in BBS Server. I'm sure that in Image 3.0 I could have set up telnet calling to use the telnet addresses to call out with, but in order to maintain compatibility with the Image 1.2 boards that are already in the network, I stuck with phone number dialing. So with that in mind, let's start the video. I'm going to log on to the board in local mode, doing an instant logon. I hit the F1 key to take us out of split screen mode and use the R command to run a class 3 program by the name of i.nm/utils. It's on drive 5. And it asks me if I want to create a network. Yes. So the first thing I want to do is add a node. Here I'm going to enter in the phone number based on my planning network map. I probably should have done the node ID first, but it doesn't matter. So next I'll do the node ID. This one is for IM2. I'm going to enter the BBS name. This one is for Image 3.0 Test 2. Entering the sysops name. Number 5 for active, enter Y for yes, and it'll put a 0 in that location. And number 6, it's connected to board 1. Notice right now it shows XXX because we haven't created board 1 yet. But now I'm going to add a second node. This one, it will be IM3. Enter the phone number. Enter the BBS name. sysop's handle. Notice it's already showing a 0 for active, so all I need is number 6, connection to number 1. Save changes, yes. I just hit return. Now I want to edit the nodes. I want to edit node 1. So node 1 is the network administrator. That's going to be IM1. And the same routine. We enter the phone number, BBS name, the sysop name, and then we're going to enter the connections. For connection 1 is connected to 2, and notice it brings up IM2. And connection 2, I enter a 3 and it brings up IM3. And if you enter a question mark here, it'll bring up all the nodes in a list. And from here we're going to use the option to make nm.create and exit back and hit return just to exit back to the main prompt. Now we want to go into the netmail config. We're going to edit the local information for this node, node 1. Enter the password, the city, and the state. Next, enter the modem specs. This is just like what we did in lesson 10 for joining a network. Have to set the calling hours. I'm going to set it from 1 a.m. to 10:59 p.m. Next, I need to edit the connections. Standard connections. Number 1, to edit the connection to IM2. I have to use, I've already exchanged passwords with IM2 and IM3. His password is pass2. It doesn't have to be different from my password on this board, but I'm just doing this for demonstration. Okay, for the hours, I'm going to put all pluses for infinite. Next, I'm going to edit the IM3 node. Same procedures. Next thing I'm going to do is create a nm.forwards list by creating a forward, email forwarding. It's not necessary to actually forward your mail from one BBS to another, but you at least have to create at least a fake forwarding list, which you can delete later. This is in order to create the file nm.forwards on the email disk. Without the nm.forwards file on the disk, the mail doesn't get processed, because the software looks for that program. So it's important to create that, and and then you can delete it later if you don't want to forward your mail. Next thing you do is set up your network graffiti and network netwall connections. So for this board, they're connected to IM2 and IM3. So that should take care of the configuration editor for the netmail. Next thing I'm going to do is go back into IM, go into the base editor programs, go into the editor utils, and run rel edit. This is so we can set up our net subs. If you remember, we have 3 subboards that we created on here in a previous lesson: General, Commodore 64, and Image BBS. So with that in mind, I'm going to create a net sub. Currently there's no net sub, so I'm going to add a net sub called General. Then I have to provide the links that General is linked to, and that would be IM2, NI2, IM2, and IM3. And then I'm going to use option number 18 in order to link this net sub to one of my message boards. I'm going to add you can use the L to list the boards that you have. I'm going to add the number 1. So in that way, the general board just got added to my net sub. Going to add another net sub ID. This one we'll call C64. I'm going to link A to IM2 and use the number 3 to link B to IM3, and then I have to add a sub using number 18, so I'm going to add number 2, which is the Commodore 64 board. And then we'll add one more net sub ID called Image, and we'll link Image to the 2 links like we did for the other 2 boards, net subs, and link that net sub ID to one of the message boards that are already created, which is message board number 3. So that's all there is to creating your net subs. Next we're going to go to the light bar defs. Go to page 2 and put a check mark next to netmail enable. That's item 13. Now we have to set our netmail trigger times. These are the times during the day that net maintenance will run. I'm just going to set up a few of them. Ordinarily I would set up all 24 so that the board would run network maintenance once per hour. But you can see by the example how to do this. So now that all the nodes are configured, we can start adding some of the network specific modules that go along with Image 3.0. Let's go into the logon editor and edit the login mods. And let's add a module. Use the $sign to bring up a directory. And I want to add the net wall. So I enter the file name and give it a description. And then I also want to add the net graffiti wall. So net.grf.rel. Now notice these are modules that the user has a choice of saying yes or no to whether or not he wants to view them. So I'm going to have to move them up to above the forced modules. So I'll use the move command. Move number 6 to position 1. And then I'll use the move command again to move number 7 to position number 2. Notice that the graphic menu is on and the menu is in one column. If you haven't done that already, use the options command to set up the graphic menus. And the next thing I want to do is add a module to the maintenance mods. And what I want to add is the NS. This is the net sub lister and mailer. And on once a week, which I'm going to set this for Saturday, this module will run during midnight auto maintenance and create the net sub list, which will be sent out via netmail to the nodes that we're connected to. So now I'm going to quit back out of the configuration editor back to the main menu. I don't have to do this. I could wait till Saturday to create the net sub list, but I'm going to run it with the run command, and this is a class 4 module. It's I/LO/NS. and it's on drive 5. And it creates the list. So if I want to see what I just created, I can do a directory of drive 2, and you notice IM1 netsub LST, netsub list. So if I want to read that, enter the file name, or at least enough of the file name along with a wildcard to be able to read it. That's what the list looks like that gets created. Now this is creating a netmail for both of the links that I'm connected to, and it'll go out on the next time that the network maintenance runs. And the next thing I'm going to do is go back into nmutils by running that program from the main prompt and send out a node update, or at least create a node update to be sent out. This wouldn't be necessary if you were creating a brand new network, but in the case of where you already have existing nodes on the network and you're just adding a node, you'd want to create a node update so that all the nodes in the network get an update of the new node that just got added. And if I do a directory of drive 2, notice that I just created the nm.u.nodes file. That's the node update. So now that I've created everything that I need for networking on node 1, I went in and I created a download UD for network updates. I'm not going to show you how to do that. You should already know how from previous lessons. But this screenshot shows that we've added a fourth UD to our UD library called Network Updates. And this screenshot shows a scan of the files that I added to this UD library. We've got nm-create, nm.map, nm.map80, the IM1 netsub list, and those 2 README files for setting up a network. It's important to have this area available on your BBS as Node 1 administrator of the network, so that whenever there are new boards that are added to your network, they have a place to come and download the nm.create file from. Without the nm-create, they won't be able to create their nodes. And the other files are nice to have, but not actually necessary in order to join the network as a new node. When I assign the drive device and drive number for this UD, I use the actual email drive of this BBS. And in that way, these files will always stay current. If there's any new nodes that are added, the nm-create will be updated, and any new nodes or even old nodes that may need to recreate their nodes, if something went wrong on their board, you have a place to come and download the nm.create file. This UD library would also be a good place for you to place any other files in the future that you want your nodes in the network to have access to, such as if there are updates to any of the program files that are utilized in the network. So going back to the key points of this lesson, we've created our node map, we've created the network, we've edited our connections, created the net subs, edited the light bar defaults, and set the calling times, and created a net update UD. Next thing we need to do is wait for the nodes to come in, call in, and download the update files. You'll want to notify the nodes in your new network that the files are ready, and for them to log on and download at least the nm.create, and they can get the rest of the files if they want them. So once your connections have downloaded the files and got their boards configured, the last thing to do would be to test the connections. You can do that by either they calling into your board or you having your board call out to theirs and try to create a network connection. In my testing, for the purpose of this video, I set up nodes 1 and 2 on the same computer, and I set up node 3 on a different computer on my local area network. What I found was that node 1 and 2 could connect to each other just fine, but trying to transfer files did not work. My theory is that the RS-232 connection on the local host between two virtual nodes is just too fast for the image BBS system to keep up with. But the connection between node 1 and node 3 with node 3 on a different computer worked just fine, and the next part of this video will be a demonstration of that. We're looking at the idle screen on node 1. I'm going to cursor over to the net position on the light bar and toggle the right check mark. This will force image netmail to begin running, and it's going to run through its maintenance routine and it'll call out to node 3. Let's just watch while it does it. If you noticed, I'm running at 38,400 baud, and so is node 3. So this network connection is going to happen with both boards running at 38.4 kilobaud. During network maintenance, node 1 found that there was a mail file that I had already pre-written to the sysop of node 3. So it found that as a file that it needs to send out. I've disabled calls to node 2 because, like I said, calls between two boards on the same computer just aren't able to sync. Here we are, we're calling IM3, and in the receive window you see data coming in from node 3. What we're looking for on node 1 is, in the network maintenance program, is the number 1. This identifies that a connection has been made. At that point, we get a connect 38.4, and we begin to send control A, if you notice in the transmit window. And in the receive window, we're waiting for a control B to come back. And there it is. And now we go into a modified punter transfer routine controlled by the machine language program on both boards. And we're sending the file. And now that this file has been sent, this board will wait to see if there's any files that are ready to come back from the other board. But in the receive window, we received a no carrier, so this board is going to go ahead and disconnect and finish running its network maintenance. Setting up a network and maintaining it can be quite a bit of work. It requires dedication on the net operator's part and a reliable system in order to keep the network intact. Even running a board can have its ups and downs and frustrations, but in my opinion, the rewards are worth it. The difference between running a standalone board and a network board is boredom. The number of people calling into a BBS these days is only a tiny fraction of what it used to be. So you might go days or even weeks of your board sitting there without receiving a single call. But at least if your board is networked, you're going to be receiving traffic every day, several times during the day, Granted, it's mostly from other sysops in the network, but occasionally regular users will log in and post something on the message boards or on the net wall or in the graffiti wall, and that makes it interesting. I hope these videos have been helpful for anyone interested in running an Image 3.0 BBS. Image BBS is a very complex system, and it takes a while to learn how to use it. But Bucko and I are always willing to provide technical support to anyone who needs it. And I think the best way to contact us is either on our boards or in the Image BBS group on Facebook. Happy holidays, and please subscribe to my channel.